Hello and welcome to TVB News. Hong Kong's property prices slumped 2% in September, a drop for the fourth straight month. It also marked a new low in home prices over the past 3.5 years. More from Jackie Lin.
This new residential project is more than 41 times oversubscribed in its first round of sales. Despite the brisk demand for flats, some homebuyers hold a dismal outlook for the city's property market. This as the latest data from the Rating and Valuation Department show September's private home prices fell 2% month-on-month. Slipping for the fourth consecutive month, the home price index has plunged to its lowest level since January 2019. The year-to-date drop in 2022 is around 8%. A property agent at Midland Realty says many homeowners are holding off plans to sell their units, waiting for property prices to return to a higher level. Many chose to rent their flats out instead. This as rental prices for private units maintain the upward momentum, soaring for the fifth straight month. In September, the rental index rose 0.17%. But compared with the same period last year, the index still dropped 2.22%. Billy Mack, Associate Professor at the Department of Finance and Decision Sciences of the Baptist University, says with the Federal Reserve's continuous rate hikes, Hong Kong's property prices are expected to plumb new depths for the coming 1 to 2 years. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
Hong Kong reported more than 6,000 new COVID infections today, 375 of which were imported. It's the first time the city's daily caseload has hit the 6,000 mark since September 20th. Separately, health authorities announced that more social distancing measures will be eased from next Thursday. Christy Khan reports.
Despite the city's daily COVID infection tally having surpassed the 6,000 mark once again today, health authorities announced in a press briefing that there will be a further relaxation of social distancing measures. This includes the lifting of restrictions on the operating hours of eateries, bars, and some other regulated premises from next Thursday. Furthermore, barbecue sites operated by the government will gradually reopen. The mask mandate, meanwhile, will be eased for photo-taking at venues such as banquets, entertainment premises, sports facilities, and religious venues. Citing the fact that the number of COVID deaths and serious infections had stabilized, the authorities said there will be room for further relaxing antivirus measures.
And we believe the risks are controllable now, and so we have proposed this relaxation. And for other infection measures, anti-infection measures, hopefully we can gradually remove them. Hopefully we will not see a rebound of COVID infection cases so that we will be in a position to relax further.
Asked if the 3-day self-health monitoring period would be terminated soon, this was the response from the health officials.
Now, the number of imported cases have seen a 10% increase. That is quite serious. Given the background, and if we relax the quarantine requirement to 0+0, the risk will be high, and it's against our policy to control risk to a controllable level. We may think that we do not have too many serious cases, but we should be prudent.
Meanwhile, health authorities reported that a 21-month-old girl who had received 2 COVID jabs was admitted to the intensive care unit yesterday. She had come down with COVID and another virus at the same time and currently requires a ventilator to help her breathe. The 31-month-old boy who was earlier admitted to Queen Elizabeth Hospital's intensive care unit remains in critical situation after brain surgery. Christy Khan, TVB News.
Kwok Chuk-kin, known as the King of Judicial Review in Hong Kong, today launched a new legal challenge against the government over its invalidation of some 20,000 vaccine exemption certificates. This time, he is seeking judicial review of a lack of appeal mechanism for holders of the certificates in question. Speaking to reporters this morning, Kwok admitted his chance of winning is small, But he insists it will be against the basic law if there is no mechanism to appeal against the invalidation. Yesterday, the government's amendment disease control laws to empower the health secretary to invalidate COVID-19 vaccine medical exemption certificates issued by 7 doctors. The documents were suspected to have been given out without proper medical consultations. Financial Secretary Paul Chan today tested positive for COVID-19 while he was on a work trip in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. The finance chief was set to wrap up his visit in the Middle East and return to Hong Kong today. A government statement says Chan has canceled his remaining appointments and will comply with relevant health requirements so that he can come home as soon as possible. It is not clear whether he will be back in time for the financial summit next week. In Iran, 15 people were killed in an attack on a Shiite Muslim shrine Wednesday. Iranian officials say a gunman who carried out the attack has been arrested. This as Iranian security forces clashed with protesters, marking 40 days since the death in police custody of Mahsa Amini sparked the biggest anti-government movement in over a decade. Tracy Furness has more details and a warning that some images may be disturbing.
Iranian state TV showed the aftermath of an attack on a Shiite Muslim shrine in the city of Shiraz on Wednesday. The violence left 15 pilgrims dead and 40 others wounded. This eyewitness said he went to the mosque with his family and heard sounds of gunfire after praying. They went to a room next to the shrine when a gunman came in and opened fire. Bullets hit his arm and leg and his wife's back, but his 7-year-old was not hurt. Islamic State claimed responsibility for the attack via its Amaq news agency. The killings at the Shah Shira shrine in Shiraz, the second holiest site in Iran, increased tensions in the country. Weeks of protests were sparked by the killing of 22-year-old Kurdish woman Mahsa Amini while in the custody of Iran's morality police. Riot police took to the streets of Tehran Wednesday as protesters were seen dragging a burning rubbish container on a main road. Students at Al-Zahra University in Tehran also protested Wednesday. And hundreds of protesters took to the streets in the northwestern city of Saqqez, Amini's hometown. A massive procession made its way along a highway and through a field to Amini's grave, 40 days after her arrest for allegedly not complying with the strict dress code on head coverings. Meanwhile, Iran's foreign minister said Wednesday that his country had sanctioned 8 EU bodies and 12 individuals for supporting what he called terrorism, violence and extremism during ongoing protests in Iran. The US State Department has reiterated efforts to support protests that have swept across 100 cities in Iran since Amini's death, but denied instigating them.
Iran's leadership is facing a problem of its own making, and it continues to accuse the U.S. of instigating these protests. And let's be clear, these protests are about the Iranian people and their demands. And we also are trying to be very careful to not play into the regime's disinformation about the United States being behind these protests.
Tracy Furness, TVB News.
President Xi Jinping said China is willing to work with the United States to find ways to get along to the benefit of both. Chinese state television said the remark was made ahead of a possible G20 meeting with U.S. President Joe Biden in Indonesia next month. Xi said China and the United States, as major powers, should strengthen communication and cooperation to help provide stability to the world. He said this at an event of the National Committee on U.S.-China Relations yesterday. The U.S. administration, following Xi's securing of his third term as General Secretary of the Communist Party of China, has stressed the importance of keeping lines of communication open with China. Biden said the U.S. does not see conflict with China and that the Chinese president knows this.
We also have to be to responsibly manage increasingly intense competition with China. You know, we have to maintain our military advantage by making clear that we do not seek conflict. I've told them that we're looking for competition. There'll be stiff competition, but doesn't need to be conflict. But we are going to compete.
New details have emerged over the deadly shooting at an American high school this week. Police say the mother of the 19-year-old assailant might have used the same firearm that she had removed from their home several months earlier. This report from NBC News.
Months before storming a St. Louis high school with a long gun and 600 rounds of ammunition, police say the accused killer's family worked with law enforcement to have his gun removed from their home.
It's hard to tell when somebody is going to be violent or act out, or if they're just struggling.
His family played an active role in getting him medical help involving therapy, medication, and committing him on several occasions, according to police.
Was the family aware of the arsenal of ammunition he had?
They were aware that he had acquired a firearm.
The ATF is still tracing where he originally bought the gun and how it landed back in his possession after law enforcement had transferred it to another adult.
How he acquired it after that, we don't know.
It's believed to be the same AR-15 style weapon used to gun down sophomore Alexandria Bell and teacher Jean Kuska, both of whom Ashley Wrench knew well.
And you can hear just pop, 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 pop.
The longtime math teacher walking by her classroom for the first time since the shooting spree.
What do you remember from Monday?
Everything. The terror, the intruder trying to get in my room 2, 3, 4 times.
That day, the school doors were locked and 7 unarmed security guards were on site. But authorities say the gunman managed to avoid the school's checkpoints.
Can you tell us if he had to break glass to get into the building, though?
He did have to force entry, and that's good for us because that buys us time.
Welcome back to TVB News. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says Kyiv's forces are holding out against repeated attacks by the Russian military in 2 towns in the east of the country. This comes as Russia appears to be bracing for a battle with Ukraine in the strategic Kherson region. Daniel Rao tells us more.
During his nightly video address, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said there would be good news from the front for Kyiv. He stated the most severe fighting in eastern Ukraine is taking place near Avdiivka, outside Donetsk and Bakhmut. Bakhmut is strategically crucial for the Russian invasion, as it sits on a main road leading to the Ukrainian-held cities of Sloviansk and Kramatorsk. Zelensky slammed Russia's military, stating the east of Ukraine is where the craziness of the Russian command is most evident. He did not mention what is unfolding in Kherson in the south. The looming battle for Kherson city at the mouth of the Dnipro River will determine whether Ukraine can loosen Russia's grip on the south of the country. The Russian-appointed Kherson regional government said it had rebased to the left bank of the Dnipro as forces braced for an increase in fighting. Ukrainian forces advanced along the Dnipro in a dramatic push in the south at the start of this month. However, their progress appears to have slowed. Russia has been evacuating civilians from Kherson city, but says it has no plans to pull out its troops. Meanwhile, in Russia, the military staged a high-profile rehearsal for nuclear war. Russian President Vladimir Putin has repeatedly voiced his readiness to use all means available to fend off attacks on Russia's territory. State television broadcasts featured footage of submarines, strategic bombers, and missile forces practicing launches in retaliation for an atomic attack. This week, the Kremlin has been promoting accusations that Kyiv is preparing to release nuclear material with a so-called dirty bomb. Ukraine and its Western allies have called the allegation baseless and a potential pretext for Russian escalation. Despite the tense situation on the battlefront, United Nations Aid Chief Martin Griffiths said he was relatively optimistic that a UN-brokered deal that allowed a resumption of Ukraine Black Sea grain exports would be extended beyond the initially agreed point of mid-November. Daniel Rell, TVB News.
Italy's first far-right-led government since World War II can get down to business after new Premier Giorgia Meloni easily won the second of 2 required confidence votes in Parliament. During her reply to Parliament on Wednesday, Maloney defended herself against criticism that her Ukraine support failed to include the word peace. Also, her economic policies were under fire. The opposition accused her of encouraging tax evasion, as she said she would lift limits on cash transactions that previous government had enacted as a measure to fight tax evasion. The government has set up 10 collection points for the public to discard cannabidiol-infused products. This as the city is poised to outlaw cannabidiol, or CBD, one of the active ingredients of cannabis, by February. Commissioner of Customs and Excise Louise Ho says the department fully supports the government's move to list CBD under the same category with heroin and cocaine as dangerous drugs. She says young people often use CBD before being introduced to other drugs, and some teens arrested recently on drug-related offenses are as young as 13 years old. She has vowed to strictly enforce the law once it takes effect. A 64-year-old man found guilty of involvement in the 2019 Yuen Long mob attack was today sentenced to 4 years and 3 months behind bars. Ching Wai-ming was convicted of rioting and conspiracy to wound with intent in connection with the violence on July 21st, 3 years ago. In sentencing, District Court Deputy Judge Newman Wong said the defendant was seen among the white-clad men at Yuen Long MTR station that night. The judge also said that Ching, together with other assailants, assaulted at least 3 people with rattan sticks. While Ching did not assume a leading role in the attack, he actively participated in the violence, the judge noted. Although the attack didn't cause very serious harm to the victims, the judge said the incident shocked the community and widened the rift between people with divergent views of politics. Setting a starting point sentence of 4.5 years in prison, the judge took into consideration factors, including Ching's age, and handed down the 4-year and 3-month jail sentence. The Hong Kong Cyclothon is set to return on December 18th, following a 4-year hiatus due to the pandemic. Registration will be open to the public starting on Saturday, with the maximum application number dropping to around 3,000 this year. Interested parties can sign up for the 50-kilometer or 30-kilometer contest, paying a registration fee of $650 and $330 respectively. The 50-kilometer cycle route will cover 6 districts, starting from Tsim Sha Tsui East. Riders will have to pass through bridges and tunnels, such as the Tsing Ma Bridge and Chung Tsing Tunnel. They're required to attend a cycling technique assessment between the 19th and 20th of November if they have never previously taken part in the cyclothon. Registrants should have received at least 3 COVID jabs and must possess a valid negative PCR test result within 48 hours prior to the contest. On the day of the event, they also have to display a negative rapid antigen test result. That is the news. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.